Hello everyone, this is Manohar Reddy, Department of Cybersecurity, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Today I am going to discuss about the question bank discussion on TCL and DCL commands. TCL and DCL commands. So TCL is nothing but what? Transaction Control Language. Transaction Control Language. So that means the commands which are used to control the transactions. The commands which are used to control the transactions. So what type of commands are going to control the transactions? Means we can have the commands like what? A commit operation and a rollback operation and a save point operation. These three are, we can call it as what? A transaction commands. Transactional commands. So to do this, what we have to do to perform this all the transactional commands, we have to create the table first. We have to create the table first and insert the data also in the table. So we need to create the table as well as we need to insert the data also. So we need to create the table as well as we need to insert the data into the table. So how we can create the table? So in the previous sessions we already discussed about how to create the table, how to insert the values into the table. So here create table name. So here class is the table name. So class is the table name and the ID integer of 5, name character of 10. So it indicates that what? Integer data type is ID, ID is integer data type and the name is a character data types. So after that it displays what? Query OK 0 rows affected. So now the table is inserted, the table is created. So after creating the table we need to insert the values, So insert into table name. So how you are going to insert the values? Insert into table name is what? Class values of 1 comma 1, 2 comma 2. That indicates I am going to insert the values 1, 2. So these two values I am going to insert. So after executing this query, it displays what? Query OK 2 rows affected. So that means the two values are inserted. So to check whether the values are inserted or not, we need to use the command what? Select command. So now you can type what? Select star from table name. So the table name given, then it displays what are the values they have inserted will be displayed. So 1 and 2 will be inserted. So here IDs are 1, 2 and the names are 1, 2. So the values are displayed. So now to perform TCL, we need to start the transaction. So to perform the TCL operations, transactional operations, we need to start a transaction. So for that, start a transaction command. So start a transaction is a command to start your transaction. So before performing any commands of transaction, you need to put it as what? Start a transaction as a command to start our transaction. And here after performing the transaction, the save point works only before commit operation. Save point works only before commit operation. After commit operation, save point will not be work. So after commit operation, save point will not work. So save point saves the current work and displays the information. So save point, what is the function of save point? The save point, whenever you created a save point for the transaction, it saves the current work temporarily. And it displays the information. So how to perform that save point operations before commit? So we need to start the transaction here. So after starting the transaction, I am going to insert the values. So right now the table class contains what? ID and the name. So ID and the name. What are the values? ID 1, 2. The names also 1, 2. The two values are having in the table. Now I am doing the transactions after starting the transaction. So start a transaction. Now I am going to insert a value. Insert into class values of 3, 3. So now the value is inserted as 3, 3. And particular this stage I am going to create what? A save point A. So I am going to create what? Save point A. So now The save point is created and the save point saves the current work which has been done. And again I am trying to what? I am trying to insert one more value, insert into class values of 4 comma 4. So again I am trying to insert value as 4. So now 4 value will be inserted. So 4 value will be inserted. So here I am creating a save point B. I am creating save point B. So save point B is created and it saves the current work. It saves the current work. That means the values which you are inserted for will be saved, but not permanently. It saves only temporarily. The next, what I am trying to do is I am trying to update the value, update the table class set name equals to Raj. So name equals to Raj, where ID equals to 1. So where ID equals to 1. So ID is 1 here, and for this where ID equals to 1, the name will be updated as Raj. Name will be updated as Raj. So here update operation perform. For this updated, I am creating what? Save point C. I am creating save point C. So now rows matched changed 1 is 0. So for this I am creating save point C. So I am created save points for inserting one value, inserting third value into the table. For this save point A is created, inserting fourth value into the table. For this created save point B, and last one updating the value of whose ID equals to 1, their name should be updated as Raj. So for that I am creating what? Save point C. So save point C. So that means whenever I created save points, that stores data temporarily. That stores data temporarily because it performed before commit operation. It performs before commit operations. So now if we perform commit operation, then we will not roll back the data, which happens on save point states. So whatever the data we saved at save point states will not be rolled back. We can roll back the data which does not perform with the commit operation. So which does not perform with the commit operation. So now if I type select star from class, so it displays what? The updated value Raj and the third value inserted, fourth value also inserted. So now if I want to roll back the data before doing these operations, before performing these operations, if I want to roll back the data, so roll back to save point B. So save point B is nothing but what? I am creating the save point B at fourth value inserting. So whenever roll back to save point B indicates that what? Up to that values only it displays. So update operation ignores. It ignores update operation which created at save point C. That is ignored and displayed up to save point B. So it displays what? 1, 2, 3, 4. It displays what? Up to 1, 2, 3, 4. Save point B up to save point B. Whatever the work has been saved temporarily will be rolled back to the process. So again roll back to the save point A. So save point A is created where save point A is created for at the insertion of third value. Insertion of third value. So whenever you perform rollback to save point A, automatically it displays the value whichever we created at the save point A, whichever the data we saved at save point A. So that will be displayed. So select star from class. Select star from class. Then it displays what? 1, 2, 3. At the creation of the save point B and at the creation of save point C, values will not be rolled back because I am rollbacking the save point A only. I am rollbacking the values up to save point A, so that it displays only up to save point A. So this is the way we can perform rollback operation before commit operation with the help of save point state. With the help of save point state. So whenever we apply after commit operation, what will happen? So I am trying to insert value what? I insert into class values 5 values. So I am inserting already 4 values are inserted. Now I am trying to insert what? Fifth value. So already 5 values are there. ID, name. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And one value is updated as Raj. So now the values are what? Raj 2, 3, 4. Now I am trying to inserting value after commit operation. after commit operation, we are going to try rollback. So how can we roll back? Check here. So insert into class values of fifth. So I am trying to insert one fifth value. So the value is fifth inserted. Now I perform commit operation. So after commit operation, if you want to roll back to the save point B, which I created earlier, so roll back to save point B will not be roll back because after committing the previous all the data which saves temporarily will be stored permanently. Will be stored permanently. So at the moment we cannot roll back the data because it saves permanently in the database. So check here, rollback to save point B does not exist. Rollback to save point C does not exist. Rollback to save point A also does not exist. That indicates what the data which you want to roll back at the states of save point B and C and A are already permanently stored. So there is no states at all to roll back your data. So after commit, no information will be rolled back. After commit, no information will be rolled back. So all the above commit, rollback, save point operations can be done after start transaction only. So to perform these all commit, rollback, save point, these three operations will work after starting the transaction only. These three transactions will work after starting the transaction only. So before starting of the transaction or without starting of the transaction, these three operations could not be work. So these are the transaction control language commands. While talking about the DCL commands, DCLs are nothing but what? Data control language. So we need to control the data. Means we can give an access to the specific users, or we can deny the access to the users. We can give the access or we can deny the access. So to do that process, we need to create what? We need to create users first of all. So how can we create user? So create username @ localhost. That indicates what? A host, and this is the username identified by password. So for that example, create user Manu identified by Manu. This is the username and this is the password. So I am creating a user with the name of Manu and Manu. So the query OK and 0 rows affected. That means the user is created. To see the list of users in database, how many users are created, you can check with the select user from mysql.user. So after clicking on this one, displays what? How many of the users are created in the table in the database will be displayed. So here the users are what? Anu 1, system, new user, Peter, root. These are all the users that are created earlier or in the previous sessions. So to see the current user of the data, so select current user. So if I execute this query, it displays what? The current user. Who is the current user of the database will be displayed. So presently the current user is what? Root @ localhost. So one row in a set. And to see the description of the user, DESC space mysql.user. So that indicates what? It shows the description of the users. So what is the fields of the user? What are the types of the fields that are available for the user? And the constraints, key constraints, default, extra, anything will be displayed for the user. And to see the list of users, host. We can select the user, host. Both we need to select. Select user, host from mysql.user. So that indicates that what it displays user and host. Both it displays from mysql.user. So here it checks what user and host. Whenever you are creating the user, at the time of creation of user, if you given a host, then it displays what the host what you given. If you are not given the host, indicates that what it displays only percentage symbol, that indicates that that does not provide any host for that user. So for this Manu one and system, for these users, we no need to create. We not created a host, but for this second user, now user Peter and root, we created with the local host. We created with the local host. So now it displays both user and host. So to grant all privileges to the user. So now user is created. Now user is created, and we already checked with the current user of the system. So how can we grant the permission to the user? So we can do the granting the privileges to the user in two ways. One is granting all privileges onto the user, and granting specific users to the specific privileges to the user. So grant all privileges on star dot star to new user at the rate localhost. That indicates what we are granting all privileges to the new user, whoever created a user like a second user. Example, second user. To this second user, we are granting. We are means the administrator or the current user will be the will be granting the privileges to the second user identified by this localhost. And if you want to apply specific privileges, so grant, create, select. That means we are specifying only those two: create, select privileges on second user identified by localhost. So in this case, I am granting all the privileges to the second user, but in this case, I am granting only create and select privileges to the user. So after applying the privileges, after granting the privileges to the user, we can check. We can check with the show privileges to the user. So how can we check? We can see the grants show grants for second user at the rate localhost. That means this is username and identified by host. Show grants for the username, then it displays what the grants of that user. So create grant, select, create. So these two are granted to this second user. Identified by the password is also displays, but encrypted way it displays. And after given granting permissions to the user, how can we log in as a user? So before login as a user, the user has to privileged with root user. So the user must be privileged with the root user as mentioned above in grants option. So in the previous slide we discussed about the grants option. So after granting the permissions to the user, only the user can log in as a administrator. So that means a new user having permission to log in as a user. So now to log in to different user account, we need to open the command prompt by executing the run command. So after executing the run command, type cmd. So cmd will be typed here. Click on OK. So after clicking on OK, we can see the command prompt like this. After this, we need to move the path where MySQL has been instructed. We need to move the path where MySQL has been specified. So wherever the MySQL has been specified, we need to move that path. We need to move to that path. So as shown below. So next, type the following syntax: login as a user. So after entered into this path, the type the following syntax to login as a user. What you can type: MySQL space -u username space -p. So this is what you need to type. MySQL space -u is nothing but what a type of user and the username, and -p the type of password. After typing this one, it displays what here. So MySQL space -u space second user space -p, that indicates what I want to log in as a user into this MySQL with the help of this username and password which I provided. So enter password. So after entering this password, it displays what? Welcome to the MySQL monitor. Commands end with r/g. So your MySQL connection ID is what? 7, and the server version is what? 5.5.27. MySQL Community Server GPL, that means General Public Licensing Authority, and copyrights Oracle and its affiliates, all rights will be reserved. So this is all the information which is having for the SQL version will be displayed. So Oracle is a registered trademark of Oracle Corporation and its affiliates. Other names may be trademarks of their respective owners. So this is all about how to log in as a user. So in this we applied what? A grant we applied. So if I want to revoke the permissions, so you need to revoke like this. So revoke all permissions from user. So revoke all privileges. We need to specify what? All privileges on star from second user at the rate localhost. So that is what we need to revoke the permission from second user identified by localhost. And the query OK, 0 rows affected. So that means all privileges will be revoked from this second user. So now the second user cannot able to log in as a separate user. So to drop users from database, we need to type what? Drop user, username identified by localhost. So username, what you specified, you need to type username, that type of username you need to specify. So drop user, second user at the rate localhost. That indicates what? I am going to drop the second user. So now the dropping of the user has been dropped. So query OK, 0 rows effect. So this is the way of revoking the permission. So granting the permissions, the grant and revoke are the two data control language commands. So granting the user and revoking the permissions from the user. So this is the way of understanding of all the TCL and DCL commands. So TCL are nothing but what? Transaction control language commands, and DCL is nothing but what? Data control language commands. So once again we revise the topics which we discussed in this session. So here the first one is what? Transaction control language. So transaction control language. So to do these operations, what we need to do? To do commit, to do rollback, to do save point, we need to create what? Table. We need to create tables. So after creating the tables, after inserting the data only, we can perform the commit, rollback, save point operation. So to perform these three operations, we need to do what? We need to start the transaction immediately. We need to do what? We need to start the transactions only. So after starting the transaction, you need to insert the values, creating the save points, inserting the values. So creating the save points before commit operation. So before commit operations only you can create the values, you can say create the save points. So after creating the save points, you can roll back your data. So by applying directly roll back to the save points whichever you created, you can roll back the data. So after rollbacking the data, you can check whether the data is rollbacked or not. So by performing select operation, after commit operation means the save point saves temporarily data will not be worked, because after commit the data will be stored in permanently. DCL commands. So DCL commands are nothing but what? Grant and revoke. These two are DCL commands, grant and revoke. So the syntax for this: creating user and a list of users, granting the users for the permissions, all will be displayed. Granting the users for this all, how to grant the permission to the user, how to grant specific permissions to the user, and you need to see the list of privileges to the user. Everything will be displayed. So after displaying all this, how can you log in as a user? So you need to open the command prompt window. After command prompt window, you need to move to the MySQL path where it has been specified. So after entering into that MySQL path, you can enter as a user MySQL -u user type and password. It is asking you to enter password. So after entering the password, you are in the administrator mode. So you are in the user mode. So after that, if you want to revoke the permissions from that user, you can revoke all the permissions. You can revoke all the permissions. So after revoking all the permissions, no need to use that as a user. So you can drop the user as well. You can drop the user as well. So this is all about creating users, creating transactions, and performing TCL and DCL operations. Performing TCL and DCL operations. So the mainly TCL operations are what? Commit, rollback, and a save point. But for the DCL commands, what? A grant and a revoke. So this is all done. TCL all done before starting of the transaction. So this is all done after starting transaction only. This is done on only login as a user. So this is all about to know about TCL and DCL commands in database. Thank you all.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.